Joe, how are you doing tonight, man?
Hey, I'm good, man. How you guys doing?
Doing good. Thanks so much for joining us. So we're talking right now. We got Warriors Suns begins in about 48 minutes. A rare occasion where you're going to get the Warriors as dogs, +1.5. The total 227.5. Any player props, side or total in this game for you tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think I lean the Suns, honestly, on the game as a whole, but I'm on Andrew Wiggins over 16.5 points. And I have three plays on this game, actually. I've got Wiseman over 6.5 rebounds and assists, and DeAndre Ayton over 16.5 points. So a lot of action. This should be a pretty fun game. The Suns should be, pretty motivated to kind of prove that they weren't, as bad as they looked against the Mavs in the playoffs last year.
Joe, the Blazers, Spurs, and Jazz are three of the top four teams in the West right now, just like we all predicted to start the season, right? They're all off to some hot starts. Are you going to keep backing these teams here over the next couple days, maybe week, while they are hot, or are you looking to fade them? Because I'm looking at, like, Portland tomorrow. They're favored at home against Miami. Utah's laying 5.5 at home against Houston. So clearly there's been a little adjustment here from the books. Are you going to look to fade these teams here the next couple days?
The Blazers, I'm a little skeptical about fading because I think the big concern with Portland was how healthy Dame was last year. And, he's coming out. He's got pretty good rapport with Anthony Simons. That offense, if they're really going to be churning, that offense is going to be good. So I'm a little skeptical about fading them. But for Utah, look, they got a couple of guys between like Lauri Markkanen, Colin Sexton, Mike Conley that they are putting up some fight here, but I think that they might be a team that I'm looking to back, maybe Houston in that spot at a plus number.
What are your thoughts on the Minnesota Timberwolves as a whole and what you would do in terms of betting them on a night-to-night basis?
So I think with Minnesota, the big thing is obviously getting Rudy Gobert from the Utah Jazz. And I think that one of the things with that is he's going to anchor that defense. Like, they're going to be really good. But part of the problem is those defensive schemes, they take time, and defense is a lot of its chemistry. So they lose Pat Beverly, who's that like defensive energy guy and, director. And then now you have this team that's trying to run a bunch of like different defensive schemes between playing drop with Rudy Gobert, having Karl Anthony Towns playing like up at the level and trying to switch. So it's a little complicated, and I think their defense is going to suffer, at least in the immediate. So I think that maybe some team total overs for their opponents might be a good play as they try to adjust and figure out what they need to do defensively to really succeed.
How long would you do that for? Like, are you waiting until the 30 game in sort of mark, or are you just kind of playing it by what you see in terms of whether they're gelling?
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit about like what I'm seeing, but I think I'll try to reassess maybe at like the 15 game mark, because that's about 20% through the season. So we'll have an idea of, how that team's looking, how that defense is actually kind of shaping up. But I think right for now, there's a lot of things that they aren't comfortable with. And we can really see that, especially with Towns. He is being asked to play a different position and really a different role on that team. So I think that it's a good spot to target, especially right now. And we just saw San Antonio beat them, and they're not supposed to be good at all.
Joe, it's early in the season, but any concerns with Philadelphia in the East? They're 1-3, or Miami at 1-3?
A little bit less with Philly. The main thing that I was concerned about is they were saying that all of a sudden Joel Embiid was dealing with a plantar fascia injury over the offseason and kind of came in out of shape. So it's a little concerning, at least in the immediate, but I'm not as concerned long-term as long as it's not like a lasting issue and he just kind of needs to play himself into shape. I think that team's going to be really good and is going to be at least a regular season juggernaut. But with Miami, I kind of felt like they were playing above their head last year, and, the coaching is excellent, but I struggle to see them being a top seed in the East again, but they keep proving us wrong. So I guess we'll have to see.
Joe, we talked about MVP earlier in the show and who we like to win the award right now. Tristan and I are both liking Ja Morant a lot. He is the fourth shortest odds. Luka's the favorite. Who's your pick to win MVP this season?
MVP's tough. I mean, Ja is just he's so electric, and he's starting to do, I feel like, more with the basketball, and especially because Memphis, they're missing a lot of guys. It's good narrative, but Luka's usage rate is just through the roof. And I think the season that he's going to wind up putting together is going to just be absolutely incredible. One guy that I am eyeing, though, is honestly, it's Giannis. And a big part of that is the fact that Middleton is out. I feel like they don't have the same pieces that they've had before. They're kind of dealing with a bunch of injuries, and they don't. He was right in the voting again last year. He usually stays healthy, and I think that the number that you're getting on him, around like 8-1, 9-1, is pretty good for Giannis. Is a guy that's always going to be in the conversation.
What about Rookie of the Year? Because we were talking about that as well. Obviously, Paolo has the shortest odds, putting up 20 a night, but they're not on nationally televised games very often, and the offense looks a little discombobulated in terms of how they're going to use them. Keegan Murray obviously kind of came in a little bit later because he had COVID, and then Ben Mathurin is still, playing off the bench. Out of those two, not Paolo, so Keegan Murray and Ben Mathurin, who would you pick for Rookie of the Year?
I like Mathurin a lot, and a lot of it's tied to the fact that I've been really big on Tyrese Halliburton and his development over the offseason and like what I expected to see from him. I guess the question with the Pacers is really, are they gonna tank for Wembanyama and Scoot Henderson? But the numbers Mathurin is putting up with like 22 points a game, like 5 rebounds, he's banging threes, he's got good percentages. That's going to be really tough to look away from because he's really an engine on that Pacers offense along with Halliburton. So I like that. I think that with Murray, as much as I like him, he's just always going to be playing a little bit of second fiddle to De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis there. So I struggle to see him getting enough stats, I think, to really get there.
What do you think ends up happening with the Lakers? Obviously, they're terrible. They're not looking really good right now. They have to get rid of Russell Westbrook, but the problem is, where's he going? What's the market for Russ right now at this stage of his career? What do you think ends up happening with them? Just another missed opportunity at the playoffs and LeBron and AD sitting at home?
It's really tough. I think they obviously need to get rid of Westbrook, and they're saying now he's dealing with like a hamstring injury from the preseason, but I don't know how much I buy that. The one thing that I do think is interesting is I was running the numbers actually a little bit earlier today, and it's like a really small sample size, like only about 40 possessions. But when Westbrook's off the court and LeBron and AD are on, they're a plus 13 per 100 possessions. So I think that that's still something that they can work with because they're obviously two incredible players. So I think that there's going to be some market. Maybe the Hornets could emerge as a team that like wants to tank and try to use their pick to get a guy like Victor Wembanyama or Scoot Henderson to pair with LaMelo. Maybe get some guys like Terry Rozier, PJ Washington, and Kelly Oubre, all of which, can kind of contribute to this Lakers team. So, it's either there or the talk has always been Indiana for Buddy Hield and Miles Turner, but that trade just has never seemed to want to happen.
Joe, tomorrow we have Bucks facing the Nets. Milwaukee 3.5-point favorites at home. The over/under 233.5. There's a good chance we maybe see this matchup in the postseason. We saw it a couple years ago. Your thoughts though on the game tomorrow? Would you take Milwaukee minus 3.5, or would you take Brooklyn plus 3.5?
I lean Milwaukee here at the 3.5. I think that Milwaukee's got a ton of time off. It's actually, I kind of was thinking about it and I was like, when was the last time they played? So they've got a lot of time to watch some film, catch a couple more games of Brooklyn and how they're playing. And I still like the matchup. I don't think that they have anybody that can really deal with Giannis, whereas Giannis is a guy that can kind of cover a variety of their players, whether it's Simmons, whether it's Durant, whether it's Irving. So I like this spot for Milwaukee. And a prop that I'm looking at is Grayson Allen over 11.5 points. It's actually out on DraftKings right now. I think MGM, you guys will probably have it out too. But that's a prop that I'm looking at. I think it's a good spot. He's been averaging like 17 or 18 points in his games without Chris Middleton with the Bucks over the past 2 seasons.
Yeah, let's stick with the prop market. We've been talking about that a little bit so far this season. There's been some really underrated players, I guess, flying under the radar, like, say, for example, Trey Murphy tonight, just absolutely balling, especially without BI in the game and Zion in the game. And then you've got, like, Christian Wood, who looks like might be a 6th man of the year. Trey Jones for San Antonio as well, now standing in for DeJounte Murray after the trade. So who are some of the player props that you've been identifying where you just feel like Vegas is really off?
So I actually was all over Trey Murphy tonight. I tweeted it out. So If you're following me, that's a way to get that. But tomorrow, one of the spots that I'm looking at is Alperen Sengun is out for the Rockets tomorrow. And the guy that slid into the starting lineup, or he didn't even slide into the starting lineup, he wound up coming on off the bench, was a guy named Tari Eason.
Yep.
And he played very well last night, and he's going to get that opportunity, I'd imagine, again tomorrow. Just missed a double-double. He had 11 and 9, and his double-double was 18-1 yesterday. So I think that given the opportunity, it's another rematch with the Jazz. So, I mean, it's going to be a fast-paced game. They don't have great interior defense. I think that that's another spot that I'm going to be looking to target, especially his rebounds prop, I think, because that didn't seem to adjust in the right way. They were still hanging like a 4.5, 5.5 when he was recording like 8 in 19 minutes before. So that's definitely a spot that I'm looking at. And then on the flip side, on the other side of that, you have Lauri Markkanen has been incredible. I think he missed his points and assist prop against the Rockets, but it's been around like 20.5, and he's been a bucket for them, and that offense is really churning. So both of those guys in this particular matchup, I know it's not a game that a lot of people are going to want to watch, but there's a lot of opportunity with those seemingly bad teams.
Joe, last one from me really quickly for you. The Knicks, 2-1 to start the season. Solid against the spread, though, 3-0. Early thoughts on them and Jalen Brunson and his fit in that lineup?
Oh, man, I'm a Knicks fan, and I love Brunson. I think this is a great fit for the Knicks, and his assist prop, they keep popping at 5.5. So as long as they're going to keep giving me that, I'm going to keep taking it because they really have needed a real engine for the offense. And like last year, their leading assist guy was Julius Randle, and that's just not really a recipe for success. So it's nice to see that they have like a real point guard in New York. And the bench depth is great, too, with Derrick Rose, Emmanuel Quickley, Obi Toppin. I think they're going to be definitely in contention this year. I don't know whether they can win a title, but they're at least going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. Was that good?
Yeah, Joe, thanks so much, man. Thanks for coming on tonight. Enjoy the rest of the games tonight.
All right, guys. Thank you. Have a good one.
Joe Dellera,